I'm gonna leave you 3 view design patterns you can use in your code. Let's start with the container presentational pattern. Given the single responsibility principle, we ideally want our component's logic to be separated from its rendering layer. So if you need to display data from an API, you can split the tasks. The container component will fetch the data and pass it to a presentational component, which will handle how it's styled. We're going to apply this logic to a use case where our app will need to fetch some CAD images from an API. Create a container component which will fetch the data and pass it on to a render component. The render component's main concern will be how to style the images that were passed in. The general idea behind this pattern is about separation of concern. One place where you handle the logic and one place to handle the style. Next is the HOC pattern. The idea is to create a component that takes another one as a prop, applies some logic to it, and then renders it out. Let's apply this logic in the same example as before. We will create an HOC for our app, which will do the fetching part for any component it receives. While the data is being fetched, it will display a loading indicator. Otherwise, it will go ahead and render the component. Inside app.vue, import your HOC and pass in the URL and the cat render component. The main advantage of this approach is that it can provide the same logic to multiple components. Lastly, the provide inject pattern. You may be familiar with props when you need two components to communicate. Props are a great way to pass values down to a component, but what happens when your target is way below in your components tree? Passing down the same props many times is an anti-pattern known as props drilling, which ends up polluting your templates. What you want to do instead is using the provide inject functions. The provide function allows you to provide a value which can be injected inside whichever component needs it. A popular use case for this would be switching between light and dark mode inside your application. In app.vue, we're going to add a setup function where we're going to define a mode and a way to switch it. Next, we're going to provide a theme object with a way to access its current mode and a function to change it. Finally, inside whichever component is going to need it, you can inject this theme object. We can now access the mode to decide what icon to render or access the switch theme function to change it. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more design patterns, let me know. Same if you have any questions. In the meantime, I'll be seeing you in the next video. Take care.